What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Mike on the Mic, Boston Sports Talk with your host, Mike Molyneux. It's been a tough last couple of days. Saturday night, watching Celtics lose to the Miami Heat in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It's been a great run for the Celtics team, not only this season, but the last 5 years. At the beginning of this season, or even at the All-Star break, if you would have told me this Boston Celtics team would have been in the Eastern Conference Finals Game 7 against the Miami Heat, I probably would have asked you if you were smoking, drinking, or sniffing something, because this Celtics team didn't show any promise going through the first half of the regular season. They turned it on after the All-Star break. They got through the first two rounds of the playoffs, getting over Atlanta and Philadelphia, but they ran into a Miami Heat team who, as much people hate, they know the talent that the Miami Heat have. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, were carrying them through the first couple of games. And then Chris Bosh coming back last couple of games, really helped them as well. But it is what it is. You got to move forward. You can't go back in time and change anything. Just to say a little bit about this series, I think the Celtics shocked a lot of people, who watched the playoffs. Everyone thought once they ran into the Heat, it would be maybe a quick 4-game sweep, or the Heat would finish them off in 5, or the Heat would finish them off in 6. No one expected the series to go the distance, especially after Game 1. It wasn't a complete blowout, but the Miami Heat showed a lot of people that they're probably going to run over the Celtics for the rest of the series. Then Celtics come out in Game 2, Rondo 44 points, big game that he had, and the rest of the Celtics had, but they weren't able to close the deal at the end of Game 2. They go back to Boston, and Celtics handle business on their home court. You go back to Miami, Celtics handle business in Miami, big win on the road for them. And then you get back to Game 6, and the Celtics did not show up, completely blew that game. They had an opportunity to end this series and head to the finals on their home court in front of the great Boston fans, and they wasn't able to get the job done. And then you go into a tough environment, Miami Heat. You're facing any team Game 7 on their home court. It's not going to be looking good, and Celtics didn't get it done. With that being said about the series, Game 7, I thought, Celtics played a great game. 3 quarters, they were in it. They were up on the Heat, but the fourth quarter came around, and the Celtics looked like they were playing a game of Texas Hold'em because they completely folded in the fourth quarter. It's like they gave up, or like Doc Rivers said, it's like they had nothing left. But I honestly thought that Celtics had a good chance of winning that game. But some of the blame has to go on maybe the players, even Doc Rivers, the coaching staff, because the defensive schemes, the offensive plays, it just wasn't working in the fourth quarter. LeBron James had numerous possessions where he came down the court and blew past Brandon Bass to go to the basket for, easy layup, dunk, and one foul, whatever. And I honestly felt that the Celtics maybe could have, if not take Brandon Bass, which I've said earlier that I hate seeing Bass on LeBron, but, I'm not a coach. It means taking Bass off him, putting Michael Petras, who I think is completely worthless to this team other than the decent defense that he plays, or maybe even switching to zone defense a couple of times, which I've seen throughout the series be successful against, the Heat, staggering their offense a little or slowing that offense down. I would have said try that out, a little switch from man to zone, but it didn't work defensively. The Heat were able to do what they wanted, whatever they wanted in that fourth quarter. And then on offense, I feel like the Celtics settled for too many jump shots. Ray Allen coming off screens, trying to look for threes. Garnett taking long jump shots. I feel like the Celtics settled too much, and they let that game get away. But with that being said, let's be honest, folks. Most people in the world wanted to see Heat Thunder in the NBA Finals. Everybody could tell it's a better matchup. You got the Thunder with their big three. Westbrook, Harden, Durant. Miami, Bosh, Wade, James. Big three versus big three, young guns. Two athletic teams. Most people want to see that. And me personally, from a basketball standpoint, it is a good matchup. Who wouldn't want to see those two teams go at it? But I ride and die for the Boston Celtics. I'm Boston all the way. And I want to see Celtics in the finals, biggest stage of them all. And whether they got swept, 5 games, 6 games, it didn't even matter to me. Knowing that my Celtics got past the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals to make the finals, which would have been icing on the cake for me. And it is what it is. You got to move forward. If this is it for this Celtics team, this big three, big four, if this is the end, and it really blows up this offseason, this right here is going to be my memory in my head. 2008, these three guys came together, which is something that never really has been done before. But these three all-stars came together, and, they won a championship in their first season together, which most people would probably think that, a team coming together like that, they need time to gel, build up some camaraderie, build up a great family, friendship sense in the locker room. These three guys came together in their first season in Boston, and they won a championship in 2008. That'll go down to me is huge, seeing these guys pull together in that first year and win it with the supporting cast that they had. Doc Rivers, the decent coach that he is, it was huge. And 2008 will always be a fond memory for me. But if 2012 is it with these guys, it's been a fantastic run. And moving forward, I honestly think, me personally, I would say this does not have to be the end of the big three, in a sense that you could bring Kevin Garnett back, you could bring Ray Allen back, but they wouldn't be held to the same level as they were in previous seasons. With that being said, they're coming off, the contracts are both coming to an end after this season. And if you could sign those two guys back, for less money, you can leave Celtics, Danny Ainge, to go out and spend money and bring in even better supporting cast. Let's be honest, the bench this season, last couple seasons, since the championship season hasn't been as great. Especially this season, you don't have a lot of bench production, especially not having Jeff Green throughout the year. You lose Chris Wilcox, who's a decent big man for Celtics. It was tough, and you didn't get a lot of help from the bench. But if you could do that with the money coming up this offseason, it can really help the Celtics team, and a better supporting cast to give Ray Allen a breathing room, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. Kevin Garnett, cut down on his minutes a little bit more with him getting older, more minutes on his body. You have a better supporting cast to go along with Rondo, who will be back. Paul Pierce will be back. Avery Bradley will be back. Jeff Green should be healthy. To go along with those guys, I think if you bring in a couple players who can step up in big minutes off the bench, which the Celtics haven't had last couple seasons, it'll be huge. So you don't have to bring an end to the big three era. You just bring back the big three on a sort of a smaller scale, not as dominant or prominent as they was in seasons past. But I think the Celtics can make it work moving forward. But to end this regular season, this postseason, it's been a good run for the Celtics. I'm throwing all my chips behind the Oklahoma City Thunder to beat the damn Heat. And screw David Stern, the officials, the NBA, because let's be honest, they wanted the Heat Thunder in the finals. They got what they wanted. I hope you bastards are happy. But that's the end of the NBA and Celtics for this season. Summer coming up. We got Red Sox still playing. Let's hope they can turn it around. Patriots are moving through the off season. Training camp and whatnot going to begin soon. So continue to watch Mike on the Mic, Boston Sports Talk, where I'll talk everything Boston sports.